Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. It's time for the Champions League. Just saw the scoreline. Our cousins Milan finally got their first 3 points in the Champions League. Champions League DNA. I'm just watching the Juve game on the side. See they're struggling in Stuttgart. I think they might have actually scored. But anyway, we need to focus on us because we are playing Juve next. So it doesn't really matter what Juve are doing in Stuttgart. We focus on ourselves. We need the 3 points tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK time kickoff. And we're going to, and I'm not making this up, guys, proof, Stadion Wankdorf. Wankdorf. And the team is called Young Boys. I mean, is this P. Diddy's team? R. Kelly? Or if you're from the UK, Jimmy Savile FC? This team should be locked up these days from all the stuff that's going on, naming their team Young Boys. But anyway, we're going to burn in. No, we're not going to burn as in in a fire, in flames, but the city in Switzerland where Young Boys are from. And actually, the Wankdorf Stadium has a synthetic pitch. So aside from the fact that we are back-to-back away games, away to the Olimpico in Rome, and then now traveling to Switzerland, which is not, the end of the world. Like Italy and especially Milan to Switzerland is just literally the plane hardly probably even reaches its full height, and then it probably comes back down. It's not really a long travel, but still, Inter actually today, Inzaghi in his pre-match press conference talked about it. They traveled to Bern earlier than usual, so they did a training session yesterday already to kind of get used to the synthetic pitch, because it's like, if you guys know, I think a lot of people nowadays, especially amateurs or like you play casually, a lot of the pitches we play on, a lot of them are synthetic, and it's completely different type of pitch and feel to real grass, which is what we're used to in Serie A. So the players, hopefully they've got used to it, and are ready for tomorrow's game, because as we said, this is one of the games that we expect 3 points from. But Inzaghi, the team, has some difficulties to face at the moment. We know Zielinski was out injured against Roma. He might play tomorrow. He might start, probably not, but we'll probably see him. But definitely HAKAN is out of this game, and he might be a miracle return for HAKAN before the Juve game. So his injury was confirmed, but again, confirmed there wasn't anything serious. It's just that we don't know whether he's back in the time for the Juve game or not. Cherby's is slightly more serious. We definitely know he's not there tomorrow or the Juve game, but we don't know after that how long it would be. But again, luckily, fingers crossed, both of them are not particularly serious, similar to Zielinski's. And of course, Aslani, the guy who was supposed to step in for HAKAN, Aslani is missing. So at the moment, if we look at the predicted lineup for tomorrow, a courtesy of Sport Mediaset, this is how we're looking tomorrow. And that is pretty much the lineup I personally would put as well. I think if we didn't have to force Barella in the CDM role, I would have played Aslani. So I think that's the one forced change for Inzaghi here. Outside of that, I think this is probably the lineup he would have gone for anyway. Maybe, I think against Red Star, we saw Zielinski, didn't we? We saw Zielinski starting with Mkhitaryan, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that's the only other change he would have wanted to make if Zielinski was fully fit. But outside of that, I'm happy with that. Arnautovic, Taremi up front. The one thing I want from those two is to actually decide who's going to needs to stay up, because like both of Arnautovic and Taremi like to come back and collect the ball and try to play and do some flicks and passes, but we need at least how Lautaro and Thuram now have kind of had the understanding they need to nail down who's going to come back a little bit and be the creator and who's going to stay up. I probably would have Taremi coming. He's been very good with his pressing, but I also want to see the other side of him. I'm actually thinking about it. I want Arnautovic to come and try to be the creator, because he's got the ability to do that. And then Taremi, I want him to start being like a number 9, like a true number 9 as well. He's got that in him for sure. We saw that at Porto. I want him to start getting some goals. Yes, he's got the penalty under him, but we need open play goals to get really his confidence up. At the back, BSC starting left centre back, and the BSC actually spoke in the pre-match press conference. If you haven't watched it, make sure you go watch it. He spoke in English, so you don't even need translations. As usual, like we haven't seen too much of BSC in interviews and press conferences, but whenever you see him speak, he's kind of quite, not outspoken, I would say, but quite honest. He's not like super media trained and doesn't like escape from saying what he thinks. And yeah, the headline is "I want to play more," or actually, I think he said "I expect to play more." But yeah, always very confident in himself. He talks about the importance of the victory in Rome, but it's in the past. We shouldn't think about Juve now. We'll talk about that, after playing tomorrow, which I hope is going to be hard, guys. I think in the post-match reaction tomorrow, that will be one of the talking points. Where these guys already thinking about Juve. I think they probably will be, which is hard not to. My dream is to keep winning with Inter. He praised Jan Sommer's presence in goal. I think someone asked him, one of these Swiss interviewers asked him, because obviously they're in Switzerland. And then, yeah, really like this bit. They asked him about his growth at Inter. He said, "I came from Denmark to one of the best clubs in the world. It's a huge step, and I've learned a lot, especially in the defensive phase. I think my level is rising, and the role I play doesn't matter." I think someone's asked him whether he wants to play or can play in the middle of the three or on the left. I think, yeah, he said to that. He even said, "I can even play as a wing back, a quinto," he said, a fifth. So I think he actually could pull it off. He's got the physical ability for sure to play that, and the technical ability if we ever needed him to. And then they asked him about, the pecking order between him and Pavard. And I like his answer here as well. He says it's not easy to have a player like that in front of you. He's a great player whom I can learn from, and he's more experienced. That is the coach to the sides. For now, I expect to play more. But actually, in the full press conference, he actually said, I think I've closed the gap, between, that's what he said. Like, literally said, I think I've closed the gap compared to last season, which is true. But at the same time, I think this season, he's done well, but then he's also got a few mistakes on his head. Then they asked him about his relationship with Thomas Palacios, because he, went through the same thing as Palacios when he first came to Inter. No experience, Inzaghi not trusting him. So he said, yeah, I know it's not easy. But he also had, he said he's got the language barrier, because obviously he speaks, Palacios apparently at the moment only speaks Spanish to Correa and Lautaro. So he said, if there wasn't the language barrier, I would help him. Yeah, Thomas is smart. I think sooner or later he'll have his space. So yeah, and then as I said, good words. I like how he speaks. He's always quite entertaining to watch as well. And then his coach also spoke as well. He had a few interesting questions from some journalists. He said one of Zielinski and Barella to start next to Frattesi, so he could pretty much confirm Frattesi 100%. But I think that because of the injuries, the team kind of makes itself, to be honest. Again, they asked him about the Juve game. No, he says, no, we have to take it game by games. And then he kind of praised the young boys team. They have some problems at the start. So actually, young boys, they're, as Inzaghi said, really struggling in the league. They're actually the champions of the Swiss league last season. But this season, they started off really, really badly. You can see them. They only have 12 teams in that league, but they're in the relegation zone. You see, it's actually an interesting league how it's made. 12 teams, and from 7th to 12th, you have got, I guess, like a playoff. So yeah, they're a bit in trouble, but they've changed coach recently. They've turned things around. You can see in their form, they've got a few wins more recently. Last match, they got a win against Lucerne. And you'll see a familiar name, especially if you follow Primavera. Darian Males was actually one of the, if you follow me for a while, maybe on Twitter, I might have mentioned that he was one of the young Inter players from maybe 4 or 5 years ago that had a little bit more faith in than others. So it's not worked out too badly for him. He was at Basel as well. Now he's playing for young boys in the Champions League. So, he's carving out an okay career for himself. He's still 23. Style comparison, definitely he seemed to me very left-footed, Ilicic type player, creative. It seems like he's turned into more of a mezzala, which is, a That's what you have to do these days. Either you're number 10, but then you're like concrete number 10, goals and assists, or you go to Mezzala, or you become a striker. But yeah, so he's one to keep an eye out for, and hope probably he will be hungry to prove Inter wrong for selling him. And yeah, outside of that, I don't really know too much about their players. They got Antonio Conte, Abdu Conte at the left back. I know actually this guy, actually Cedric Itten, is supposed to be a decent striker, but apart from that, I don't really know too much about their players. Let me see if I know anyone on the bench. Ibrahim Macaulay, that name rings a bell. No, actually not. Yeah, not really sure about this team, but they struggled in the Champions League. If you have a quick look at the previous Champions League games, Barcelona smashed them 5-0, but that was away. And then the previous one, Aston Villa at home, smashed them 3-0. So in reality, realistically, Inter should be beating this team quite comfortably. But at the same time, it will be a very heavily rotated team. And Inzaghi is going to have his work cut out to manage the energies as well. That's the thing now. We know that Barella played CDM, and he probably looks like he's playing CDM again tomorrow, but he just came back from an injury ahead of the Derby d'Italia. You don't want to, well, definitely don't want to get him injured then, but you don't want to also have him burn out already, because he probably doesn't have back-to-back 90 minutes in his legs already. So that's something that Inzaghi is going to have to manage tomorrow. Mkhitaryan as well, of course, he is undefeated, unbeatable, but even he is human. Di Marco, hopefully we don't need him to come on. He's played a lot of minutes for Inter and Italy recently. Same for Bastoni. I wouldn't mind actually if Bastoni starts, having Bisek on the right, Bastoni on the left, and then, after 55, 60 minutes, subbing out Bastoni. Because Pavard didn't play for France, so it's also good that he continues. De Vrij obviously has to play. Dumfries is fine, he can play. And then hopefully we can also not even need to bring Thuram on. Thuram's played a lot of minutes as well. Probably not for France recently, but for Inter he's been trooping. And the other day, at Roma, he played the whole game, didn't he? And he had to work very hard. And then there's a couple of younger guys on the bench. Inzaghi was asked about that. This is one of the questions I would ask if I was a journalist in that room. Is this one of the questions that I've always had with Inzaghi? Let me see if I can find it here. Someone asked him. Yeah, there it is. They asked him, you don't really have a history in developing young talents. Is this something that you need to improve on? And then he kind of bigged himself up, saying, it's also on the guys, on the kids, the Primavera kids. They need to put in their effort. My brother and I, obviously, he's talking about Pippo Inzaghi, who was, one of the greatest strikers of that Italian era. My brother and I worked our way up in Serie C before playing in Serie A. So very Allegri, somewhere out there, Allegri is smiling, because that's a similar thing that Allegri said once in the GQ magazine interview, that, you need to do the gavetta. It's a very Italian way of saying, you need to do, climb the ladder, do the Serie D, Serie C, Serie B, and then get Serie A. And he says, yeah, the kids should do the same. At Lazio, I promoted many players. At Inter, fewer. But I hope to be able to promote some. Berenbrook and Naidu have earned their place here. Will we see them tomorrow? I very much doubt it. Berenbrook is a promising up-and-coming midfielder, centre midfielder. And Naidu, from what I believe, is a wing-back, if I am correct. But yeah, I haven't kept up with the Primavera this year, so correct me if I'm wrong. But anyway, unless it's like, we're winning 2-3-0 and Inzaghi gives them those charity, debut minutes, I don't really see them coming in tomorrow. Yeah, it was funny because even the Lazio quote from Inzaghi is like, did you really? Unless you can't, you probably count Milinkovic-Savic as bringing up a youth player, but they paid big money for Milinkovic-Savic. Keita Balde was already brought through by Pioli. Pedro Neto, who was then sold and now is doing good things in the Premier League. Inzaghi didn't really give him a chance there. I specifically remember him playing Marco Parolo as centre-back against Inter as well, rather than playing, someone from the Lazio's youth setup. But anyway, it is what it is. This is definitely, something that I would like to see, especially with Oak Tree now coming in. We see other teams doing it. Juve is the project next gen is definitely ahead of us in terms of they're actually now the next gen is made for them to build players into the first team, whereas with Inter it's something separate. But we've seen sometimes when Milan in the past have needed players in the Scudetto winning season as well, when they threw in youth players in there when you need it, like in an emergency situation. This is what Primavera to me should be used. We shouldn't need to be buying a seventh midfielder like a Klassen like we did last year. We should be able to throw in a center midfielder from the youth team, surely. But anyway, I digressed. I'm happy with this lineup tomorrow. I think it is good enough to beat this young boys team tomorrow. My prediction is that we concede a goal, but we get the job done just about. I think the energy levels and the tiredness from the Roma game and the injury issues might get to us. There might not be that smoothness in the players, but that's quite a decent lineup. I think we win 2-1 away. You guys let me know down in the comments down below what you think. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Who would you start? And yeah, let me know everything down in the comments down below. Ciao ragazzi, Forza Inter, see you tomorrow.